into the life and legacy of the Vivienne.
Okay.
Especially following their recent passing. And we've got a whole bunch of news articles and tributes to try to kind of get a sense of not just their impact on the entertainment world, but also their role as an advocate for LGBTQ plus acceptance.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that we're seeing a wave of grief that goes beyond just kind of typical celebrity mourning.
Right.
The Vivienne, born James Lee Williams, was more than just a drag queen. They represented resilience and self-expression for so many.
Absolutely. And I think it all kind of goes back to that iconic win on the first season of RuPaul's Drag Race UK.
Drag Race UK.
But their journey was so much more than that.
Right. And, you know, Dancing on Ice, for example, showed a whole other side to their talent.
Totally.
But what I think is really standing out to me in these sources is this consistent thread of advocacy, you know, of using their platform for something bigger.
Let's actually talk about the passing, because it was so sudden.
Yeah.
Only 32 years old, found at home on January 5th.
Right.
No suspicious circumstances or anything like that. But the shockwaves were definitely felt.
Absolutely. And the tributes have been pouring in.
Oh, yeah.
And I think they reveal a depth of connection that's really striking.
Yeah.
You know, from fellow celebrities to everyday fans, the message is clear.
Yeah.
Vivienne touched lives with their artistry, their humor, and that unwavering commitment to inclusivity.
Totally. And that brings us to the funeral on January 27th.
Okay.
Held at St. Margaret's Church in North Wales. It was, well, did you ever expect a horse-drawn carriage?
Right.
With white flowers at a drag queen's funeral?
It's a powerful image, isn't it?
It is.
And then you see those floral tributes, one even shaped like the Vivienne's iconic witch's hat from Wicked.
Oh, wow.
So it really does seem like the intention was to celebrate life, not dwell in mourning.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense, given how the Vivienne lived.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the people who came to pay their respects, because the guest list speaks volumes, I feel like, about their impact.
Absolutely.
We had pop royalty like Jade Thirlwall.
Right.
We had TV icons like Kim Woodburn. We even had Corey actors.
Yeah, that mix of attendees.
Yeah.
From, you know, Drag Race alumni to soap opera stars.
It was wild.
Really emphasizes how the Vivienne crossed boundaries.
Yeah.
You know, they weren't just for one segment of society.
Right.
Their appeal was broad, just like their message of acceptance.
It's like their presence created this, like, bridge between worlds that might not usually collide.
Exactly. And I love that, you know, these little details from the day that we're getting as well, like comedian Jade Adams in that vibrant green coat, or the Vivienne Westwood badges worn by some. It just adds to that feeling of individuality of the Vivienne champion.
It's like everyone came ready to express themselves, which I feel like is the ultimate tribute to the Vivienne spirit. And then, you know, we had Danny Beard, a fellow Drag Race winner, said, quote, "One of the world's most recognizable drag queens.
Oh, wow.
A proper world-class entertainer."
High praise coming from a fellow queen.
Absolutely. And then you have figures like Holly Willoughby from Dancing on Ice.
Right.
Expressing their condolences online, reaching a whole different audience.
Yeah.
With that message of loss, it just speaks to how many people were touched by the Vivienne.
Absolutely.
Even if indirectly, you know?
It's interesting, isn't it? You have these formal tributes.
Yeah.
But then also the image of doves being released after the service.
Oh, yeah.
It brings in this feeling of peace, of hope, even amidst the grief.
Yeah, and we can't forget those vigils.
Yes.
These were held in the days leading up to the funeral.
Right.
Those were fan-organized, spontaneous outpourings of love.
Exactly.
Which shows you how deeply personal the Vivienne's impact was for many.
It wasn't just about admiring their talent.
It felt like people had lost someone they felt truly understood by.
And that leads us to the question of, like, what was it about the Vivienne that created this sense of connection?
Yeah.
Especially within the LGBTQ plus community.
Exactly.
So let's dive into that, because while the funeral was this beautiful send-off, it's the Vivienne's advocacy and lasting influence that we really need to unpack.
Okay.
So we've talked about the outpouring of love and the, you know, celebratory nature of the funeral.
Yeah.
But now let's look at, like, the substance, like the why behind all this affection.
Right.
You know, the Vivienne was very vocal about LGBTQ plus issues.
Yeah.
But, like, where do we see that actually playing out?
That's where it gets interesting, because the sources don't give us, you know, a list of charities or campaigns or anything like that.
Yeah.
But they consistently highlight the Vivienne's willingness to just speak out. Even, using humor to address really sensitive topics like prejudice.
Yeah.
Which can be so disarming.
Yeah, yet effective.
And you can't underestimate the impact of that Drag Race win.
Oh, absolutely.
It wasn't just about entertainment.
Right.
It was about visibility. It was about somebody like them succeeding on such a mainstream platform.
Exactly. Especially, I think, for younger LGBTQ plus people who might not have seen that kind of representation before.
Right.
It normalizes different identities.
Totally.
It makes it harder to dismiss or demonize what you're now seeing celebrated.
Yeah, and think back to those fan-organized vigils.
Yes.
Those weren't just mourning a celebrity death.
Right.
It was like losing someone who understood their struggles, their hopes.
It speaks to that idea of found family,
Yeah.
which is so important in the LGBTQ plus community.
Totally.
And the Vivienne, even without explicitly saying so, provided that for a lot of people.
But it wasn't just passively existing either.
Right.
Like, the Vivienne actively challenged norms.
Yes.
Do we have any concrete examples of that?
Yeah.
Or is it more about their overall presence?
While specific campaigns aren't detailed in these sources,
Okay.
you have to remember that being successful as a drag queen was itself a challenge.
Back then.
Back then,
Yeah.
It forced people to confront their own biases, even if unintentionally.
So it's about more than just words. It's about actions.
Yes.
It's about living authentically even when it's difficult.
Precisely. And that's what made the Vivienne so inspiring.
Yeah.
They didn't just talk the talk, they walked the walk.
Yeah.
And in doing so, they created space for others to do the same.
Okay, so we've seen the impact of their visibility, their willingness to speak out.
Yeah.
But what does this all mean for us listening?
Right.
Why should we care about this legacy?
Yeah.
Especially if we're not directly part of the LGBTQ plus community.
That's the crucial question, because I think the Vivienne story highlights something universal, which is, standing up for what you believe in, even when it's tough. That resonates with everyone, regardless of their identity.
It's about recognizing that fighting for social justice isn't just for activists.
Right.
It's something we can all do in our own way.
Exactly. And it starts with small actions.
Okay.
Educating ourselves, challenging discriminatory language when we hear it.
Yeah.
Supporting those who are different from us.
Yeah.
These things might seem minor, but they add up to create real change.
So we've established that the Vivienne made people feel seen.
Yeah.
They challenged norms and they inspired action.
Yeah.
But how do we take those feelings
Right.
and turn them into something concrete, something that continues their work in a meaningful way? Okay, so we've talked about the Vivienne's impact, their courage in challenging norms.
Yeah.
But now comes the tough part. What do we do with that inspiration? It's easy to feel overwhelmed, like one person can't shift these big societal issues.
I hear you. It's like staring at a mountain.
Yeah.
Wondering how you'll ever reach the top.
Right.
But you have to remember, every journey starts with a single step.
Okay.
The Vivienne didn't become an icon overnight.
Yeah.
They embraced who they were. One performance, one witty comment at a time.
So instead of getting bogged down in the enormity of it all, we focus on what's within our reach.
Exactly. And there are so many ways to contribute.
But
I think education is a great starting point. We can seek out books, documentaries, even follow reputable LGBTQ plus organizations online.
Yeah.
The more we understand the nuances of the issues, the better equipped we are to have meaningful conversations.
Because let's be real, sometimes just having the right information can shut down
Absolutely.
harmful stereotypes before they even get going.
Totally.
But what about more active support?
Yeah.
Beyond learning, how can we make a tangible difference?
There's the direct route,
Okay.
supporting LGBTQ plus charities and organizations. Some need volunteers, others rely on donations, and even just spreading awareness about their work is huge.
Yeah.
It all adds up.
And it doesn't have to be a grand gesture or anything.
Absolutely not.
Even something small, consistent can have a ripple effect.
Exactly. But think about our daily lives, too.
Okay.
Are we challenging discriminatory jokes when we hear them?
Yeah.
Are we creating spaces, whether at work or among friends,
Right.
where everyone feels safe to be themselves?
Yeah.
Those are the small but mighty actions
Yeah.
that really shift the culture.
It's we can't expect the world to change if we're not willing to make those changes in our own little corner of it.
Exactly.
And for those listening who might be thinking, well, I'm already accepting. I'm not. The problem is there more they could be doing?
That's where allyship comes in.
Okay.
It's not enough to just not be homophobic.
Right.
It's about actively using your privilege, your voice, to amplify the voices of those who are still marginalized.
So it's less about patting ourselves on the back for being good people.
Right.
And more about constantly asking, like, what more can I do? How can I use my position to lift others up?
Precisely. And that ties back beautifully to the Vivienne's legacy.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't just want tolerance, they wanted true acceptance celebration, even of what makes each person unique.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left with this feeling of like, it's not just about mourning the Vivienne, it's about continuing their work.
And that's the most powerful tribute we can offer.
Absolutely.
The fight for equality isn't over, but each of us, inspired by lives like the Viviennes, can take those small but crucial steps forward.
Totally. So whether it's educating ourselves, donating to a cause, or simply speaking up when we see injustice, we have the power to make a difference.
Absolutely.
The Vivienne's legacy lives on not just in memories, but in the actions we take to create a more just and joyous world for everyone. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive